Wow.
Did you introduce yourself to the new council member?
I did. I did. It almost didn't recognize it.
It all.
Pat.
Okay, yeah, that'd be good. Table it till we know more.
I mean, I wouldn't think you'd do that one until you do that.
Pat went to make us
But I'll just
copies
follow
of the
your,
ordinance from that.
if that's okay with you.
Eric was talking to me. That one that was on the finance meeting. I saw it today on something. Discussion. Oh, it's just up for discussion. We didn't have a copy of it. The one there, the one that Tracy. Did you send that to us, Trey?
No, I don't think we need to hire somebody right now. Of the new business for the planning commission?
That permit, the permit.
Oh.
I read that in something.
Y'all bear with us just a minute. We're getting some last minute copying done.
Yeah, did we read that last time? Okay, yeah, let's just do the first two three, and I'm not in favor of
Hey,
I'm all for doing it, maybe one time.
On all these items, I transfer.
she's just gonna make a motion
Just
for
gonna
what?
make a motion to
Award.
combine all those.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
yeah,
Just go through them so we don't have to spend all that time.
Right.
yeah. Cause that's just
This is
cleaning
such a
up.
confusing
Yes, I agree.
You ready, man?
Yeah.
Here, let me put over and give y'all some more room. Oh, I got it. Move it.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. You're all right, no matter what Mark was saying earlier.
We're going to call the meeting. All right, we'll call the meeting to order. The December 2017 City Council meeting. If you would, please rise. We'll be led in our invocation by Chaplain Harry Comprud, and we'll follow that with a pledge to the flag.
Let us pray. Lord, I pray for the leaders here of Russellville. I thank them for their time, their devotion, their commitment to the community in the solving of the issues that arise. And I pray for your guidance and direction in the discussions and the business at hand, that the decisions made here tonight are done in the best interest of our community. Let unity and respect for each other always be prevalent. I ask for your hand and protection upon the men and women serving in our fire and police departments, and be with each family serving in the military around the world, especially at this time of year, Lord. Then, Father, we thank you and praise you in thy name. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Be seated, please. I'd like to introduce to you the new city clerk for the city of Russellville, Ms. Pat Taylor. Ms. Taylor, if you're ready, would you call the roll for us, please?
Ms. Caruth? Here. Mr. George?
Here.
Mr. Sims?
Here,
Ms. Freddie Harris?
Here.
Mr. Wiley?
here.
Mr. Tripp?
Here.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Westcott?
Here?
Mr. Horton? Mr.
Here.
Mr. Smith?
We have a quorum. Council, in your package, you should have minutes from our most recent meetings. If there's no corrections or questions, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Motion.
I believe Mr. Westcott won that one by a hair, and
Second.
the second was Mr. Wiley. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. McCoy, you got a
Mayor and
finance report
council.
today?
Finance report for November. General fund revenues were $1,113,536. For November, we had 7.19% above our projection. Tax receipts were $780,612. Franchise fees and permits were $55,996. Total expenditures were $977.34. We were 4.63 below our year-to-date projections. Year-to-date, we have received $895,977. Operation funds for street fund, $367,604. That's a 0.94% above the year-to-date projection. Sales tax receipts were $581,255. The sales tax, road tax was $49,266. Street fund expenditures, operations were $134,552, 2.61 below the projections. Sales tax improvements were $292,583 on sidewalks, overlay, and drainage. They had no capital improvements. Economic development, $34,946, $31,406 was new sales tax, $3,540 for interest. Expenditures were $1,815,979. That was for the Dalton King Building, Garver, and Weir Road improvement. Capital assets revenues were $86,167, $85,278 was the new sales tax, $889 in interest. Expenditures were $596,610 for City Corp, Building R&M, the Aquatic Center, Fire Department, and Parks. Is there any questions on the finance report?
Mayor, may
I have one,
Mm-hmm.
unless somebody else has one.
Go ahead. Ms. Harris?
On revenues, this year, okay, 780,000 for this month, and this period last year was 797. I see that's a drop of 17,000.
Yes, ma'am.
What does it look like for the year?
55,000 loss
Loss?
compared to last year.
We're at
I
55,000?
got the numbers today.
Okay, thank you.
And that would be through October, correct?
Yes.
But it's through our year.
To our year end.
Right, but it lags 60 days.
Yes,
Right.
that's correct.
Mr. McCoy, what is your projected rollover as of today?
Today, I would say 475,000.
And that's after the action last week.
Yes.
Is that it?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCoy. For my report, let's see. We're going to let Mr. Mallett give his City Corp update for this year, but first, I've got a little housekeeping chore I would like your support on. Chairman Dennis Boyd has ended his term on the Planning Commission and is elected not to be reappointed. And Ms. Peggy Stratton has decided to step off the board. She has some personal reasons why, but she wanted to tell everybody how much she enjoyed serving on the Planning Commission. We need to get them get those two vacancies filled. So tonight I'd like to nominate Mr. Luke Duffield for one position and Mr. Don Jackamore for the other.
Motion.
Motion, Mr. Wiley, second, Mr. Brown, to confirm those two.
Who's the second one?
Mr. Don Jackamore was in banking for a long time. Now he works for Kirby Specialties.
Good man.
A lot of building and developing experience. Any other questions or discussion? We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those two are confirmed. Thank you very much. Mr. Mallett, entertain us.
Okay, well, I don't know about that. I'll do my best. Sorry, I've got a little frog in my throat, but I'll try to make it brief. Appreciate again the opportunity to come here on behalf of the Board of Directors and staff at City Corp to give you folks an update. I'm actually down for two items. One obviously being the annual update. And the second being the appointment of a new board member. As you are probably aware, every January we appoint a new board member as one rolls off to serve a 5-year term. Harold Barr is rolling off. He's our current president. He'll be rolling off at the beginning of the year. And the board of directors has nominated Max Mathis III to take his seat on the board. Again, that is for a 5-year term that would eventually, in the 5th year, to serve as our chairman of the board. So that's what I offer up. I assume we need to take care of that one first, if that's your pleasure.
You need us to do that right now?
You can. Probably just as well do it now
I'll
as
make
later.
a motion, we nominate Mr. Mathis.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion to confirm Max Mathis to the city court board and a second by Mr. Brown. Motion was Mr. Wiley. You got it. Any discussion on that?
Brown, second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Your nomination is confirmed, Mr. Mallett.
Thank you. We appreciate that. He regrets that he's unable to attend. I think his son had a first conference basketball game in Clarksville tonight, so that's where he's at. And I told him I would cover for him. So
He's got his priorities right.
that's right. Just again, we'll try to make a brief water and wastewater system update, primarily centered on the bond projects that that most of you are familiar with. If you recall, we issued a bond in 2015 for a total of $49 million. Obviously, could not have done that without you folks, since you actually own the system. So we worked with you folks to do that, and it covered $20 million worth of water projects that were identified, $20 million worth of wastewater projects that were identified, and then we used $9 million of it to refinance the existing debt that we had on the books. So this is the only debt that we currently have on the books, so we were able to roll that into this bond issue. We have been able to maintain our coverage ratio. Most of you, as I was not familiar with at the time, may not be familiar with what that means, but we have to have a cushion over and above our operating expense so that the bond folks know that we have enough money to pay back the bond. So they make sure that we have a little bit extra percentage over and above our expense, including the payment of the bonds, and we've been more than capable of meeting that coverage ratio. And the rate plan that was put into place that, again, you folks approved has been sufficient, more than sufficient for payment of the bond up to this point, and we don't see any reason for that to change. So all good news there. I'm not going to go over these projects. The folks in the room probably can't even read them up there, but that's why I handed that out so you can look if you're curious as to what we've done with the $20 million worth of money designated to the water from the 2015 bond issuance. A couple of items of note was the upgrade of all the water meters. I reported on that last time. That was complete a couple years ago, and we've had good success with that project. And we reconstructed a tank at the water plant of 2 million gallons, and that got us up to, I was talking to Mr. Sims before the meeting, that got us up to meeting the health department requirement of having a max day storage in our system. So now we have upwards of 12 million gallons worth of storage in our water system, which meets that requirement. A few other projects that we've done that you'll note down there. Some have not been started, some are under construction, but they total right around $20 million. Likewise, we had $20 million slated for wastewater projects. Most of those deal with the administrative order that we were put under in 2009 to deal with issues at the plant and issues within our wastewater system, having overflows and capacity issues throughout the town. So we were ordered to address that. We've been able to complete one manhole rehab project out of 3. The first phase was completed. You'll notice we have 3 other projects dealing with capacity improvements and basin improvements. So basically just repairs to the wastewater collection system where water was getting in when it rains and flooding and overwhelming our system. And I know everybody's been through Arkansas Tech pasture during a heavy rain and seen the manhole that overflows out there, and that's exactly what we've been ordered to address. And we've made a lot of progress over the last 3 years, but we still have a little ways to go. You'll notice that there's some other projects that are listed there. Most, again, involve basins, where sections of the town were identified, surveyed, and ranked on order of priority with regard to the condition of the system. And so those will be done and completed with the first round of the $20 million worth of wastewater money from the 2015 bond issue. And again, those total right around $20 million. So that brings us to the next bond issuance in 2018. Those of you who were there when we talked about the bond issuance in 2015, remembers that that was just the first of 3 phases, actually. Well, the second phase in 2018 is projected to fund approximately $25 million towards similar projects. It's planned for this summer, so 2018, so I'll be coming around to you folks and the public over the next few months, identifying the projects that these will be targeted towards. It's heavily weighted towards wastewater projects. To be honest with you, we addressed most of the pressing issues on the water side, and we're in very good shape with regards to the plant. We still have quite a bit of work to do with the replacement of pipeline, and that's something we'll be working on from now on. That's a project that never goes away, but we are in great shape with regards to pumping and treatment and tanks. We've addressed all of our needs there. Other good news is we met with the rate consultant, and he projected that the current rate plan will comfortably support this bond issue. So if you remember, with the rate plan that was put in place in 2015 was projected to not only cover the bond that was issued in 2015 for the $49 million, but also cover a second phase or a second bond this coming year at $25 million. And there's actually a third phase of $6 million if needed in 2021, I believe. And we'll deal with that at that time to see if it's still required. But again, current rate plan is in good shape to be able to handle that. And it is projected to complete the projects that we committed to following the 2009 consent order. So when we were put under consent order from ADEQ and EPA in 2009, we had to submit a list of projects that we would do. In the list that we showed earlier is what it would take to get that done, and that's what these will continue to fund. Here's just an estimate and a projection of the projects we think will be funded with the $5 million on the water side. The top one is $1.3 million going towards the next round of water replacements. If you see crews in town, there's a good chance that they're either working on water replacement or wastewater replacement at this point in time. We've got crews, probably 3 or 4 different contracts going on right now all over town. And I think they're doing a good job. I usually get noticed if there's complaints, and from time to time I'll get a complaint as far as blocking traffic, but I think we've got mostly local contractors, which is good because they're pretty good to deal with the folks that are out there and causes the least amount of disruption as possible. But it's inevitable. Obviously, we're going to disrupt the roads that we're working on at the time. And there's some other projects there primarily at the water plant. And the second item is the downtown water improvements. We actually pulled that out separately from all the basins. We would like to do the water and wastewater infrastructure repair that's required on the wastewater side. We'd also like to do the water side so that we're in and out downtown one time and one time only. And we're trying to work with the other utilities to see if they'll piggyback with us and go in there and do all of it at the same time, so that while it will be disruptive now, when we're done, hopefully all the utility work will be done down there, renewed sidewalks and streets and everything done at one time. So there's a group that's working on that. I hope that works out that way, because we're going to be down there regardless. We've been mandated to make our repairs down there, so we're going to be there regardless, and hopefully there'll be others that go with us and get that taken care of one time.
About that, the downtown, what could we do to help encourage those utilities to work with you? Well,
there'll be some preliminary design work, some architectural work to look at the above ground stuff. And then obviously we've got some engineers on contract that are going to look at the underground stuff and try to bring all of that into one plan so they can be bid together. But I'm sure there'll come a point in time where we'll look to you folks to help fund maybe part of the architectural agreement to do some of that. So there's going to be money spent, and then eventually, obviously, the paving that goes back in, we'd hope that we can incorporate into part of the paving plan with sidewalks and paving and do that at once. But we also understand that that's probably going to require a lot of private money and money from the downtown. It's going to be a very collective effort to get that done. I have no idea what the price tag is, so if we could get some help from the council to help determine what that price tag is, we'll do our part at City Corp, and hopefully we can at least know what we're talking about, because as of right now, I really don't have any idea what the magnitude that we're talking about.
Does it just make sense that if we're going to be tearing up streets to fix utilities, and we're going to tear up all the streets to fix, we should work all of them in there in some way, shape, or form, so we're not having to do it again later? I mean,
yeah, because eventually the gas lines, eventually they'll be in there doing it, and of course we could also bring fiber optic and anything else. We can put a duct bank in there, so anything that needs to come in that's not currently there, they could make arrangements to get that in there as well. So again, it would need to be an all-inclusive, and if there's watering stations at the hanging baskets, and all that needs to be taken into account when we do that. And so that's the overall objective and goal, and it may wind up being parts and pieces of that, but we're going to at least put it all on the table and try to take a bite at it best we can.
Is that a next year project, Main Street downtown?
I think we have a deadline of 2021.
Oh,
So
okay.
we can put it off for a while. We had it slated to go ahead and do that in this round of bonds, but we put it off till the next round, hoping that we can get it all put together and get everybody in there together. But if it keeps dragging out, then eventually, 2020, we'll probably have to go in and do our part and hope that there'll be some folks that come with us on that.
Okay. I hope they do too.
So, and that, the next slide is a list of all the projects that we would hope to fund with the next round of bonds in 2018, almost entirely related to work that needs to be done to address the leaking pipes and the manholes in our system as mandated by the administrative order. Just a few other notable items. You may have noticed in the paper, Sean wrote an article updating about our board meeting, and we mentioned that the Huckleberry Creek Reservoir has water coming from under the dam in a location that it isn't expected to come from. So we've had folks out there to do some investigation to see exactly what that is, if that's where all the drains that are supposed to drain through the dam are maybe being rerouted, or if there's some type of leak through the core or under the dam. We've spent about a month and a half investigating that. We think it's seeping through in and around the pipelines that actually come. There's two pipelines that go under the dam, one to fill it and one to take water from the lake. We're assuming it's around that, so that we've had crews on site that would repair it, whether it's in the dam itself or in the bedrock under the dam. There's ways to fix that. There's people that get paid, I guess, to do that on a daily basis. It sounds pretty ominous to me, 130 feet deep, but there's ways to do that. So, and I've kept the mayor and liaison, Mr. Sims, kind of up to date as we move along, but really nothing happening as of yet. Don't really know the scope of repair, but we've got a notable amount of water that's coming through, but it has decreased by about 20% over the last month. I assume because the lake level's going down a little bit, but it's only dropping about 1/10 of a foot a day, so that's really not any different than what we normally see. So while it may be a good amount of water, it's about 1/3 of the water that we take out to treat every day that's coming under the dam, the best we can estimate. So as we get some information and kind of put a plan of action together, I'll make sure that we keep the mayor and Mr. Sims in the loop. And if something out of the ordinary happens that requires a little more concern, then obviously we'd bring the whole board up to speed. But no issues, no concerns as far as being able to treat water, no structural issues as far as any danger to the dam. So it's just a repair that has to be made, and we're working on that, and we'll keep my board and of course the council up to date on that. Any questions on that item? Also had some conversation about a second water source. It's kind of funny because I maybe don't place a whole lot of importance on that until something like this comes up, and you think, well, it would be nice to have a secondary source in case something were to happen with either the dam or the lake itself or the pipeline coming to, because we basically rely on it for high quality water. That being said, we do have the capability to take from the bio at the plant, and that's how we treated water for 50 years prior to the lake being online. So if something were to happen to the dam or the lake or the pipe, we still have the ability to treat water just like we did for, again, 50 years prior to that being put in. So no real concerns there. But we have talked about, we did revive probably a study that was 20 years old that looked at the North Fork of the Illinois Bayou as a possible location. It was actually considered when the Huckleberry was built, and the Huckleberry was decided to build in favor of the Huckleberry rather than the Illinois Bayou. But the entire lake would be within government-owned property. It's in the Forest Service. So we made contact with some folks in Washington a while back just to see if that was even worth pursuing or the possibility. And while they said it wasn't impossible, that obviously it would take a literal act of Congress to get something like that done. So we're following up with that, but obviously it's a long-term need, and it would be something that would probably be more recreational, as the primary source, and then secondary water source is the second reason to do that. But if you hear anything about that, it's not anything that's going to happen in the next, probably in my term here, maybe in my lifetime, based on the need for water source. But it is something that we are looking at. Not only that, but other areas, because it took about 20 years from the concept to the reality for Huckleberry, and I'm assuming with the regulatory items the way they are now, it may be actually longer than that. So we're starting the process, and hopefully that we can, over the years, we can kind of narrow in on that. Any questions on that item? I'll note that we have spent quite a bit of money at the wastewater treatment plant to address items that were cited in the administrative order, primarily related to very specific things, one being nitrates, one being suspended solids, and one being total residual chlorine. So we spent money to address those specific items, but what we didn't do is we didn't spend money to expand the plant or increase the plant's loading capacity. And over the past 5 years, for good reasons, we've had the loading at the plant has almost doubled, which has exceeded our plant's ability at times, especially during the colder months, to meet our permit limits. And again, while that's a good problem because that means we have a lot of industry that are doing more, and I think we probably have a good idea of what industry has expanded the most and probably has the most food waste that actually comes to the plant. So we're working with them and others to try to deal with the issue at their plant so that we don't have to expand our plant to be able to treat that. Since the majority of the extra loading is coming from one industry, we're working with them. They're well aware of it, and again, it's a good thing because that means they've continued to add production to their plant, and we don't want to get in a situation to where we have to limit them from expanding again if they want to. We want to be able to accommodate that, so we're working with them to make sure that that's always the case. Any questions on that? I think the last item that I've got here is just kind of what I mentioned earlier. Currently, we got a lot of projects going on citywide. Going to have projects going on downtown. Very much appreciate the public's patience with us and understanding and realizing that it is a necessary evil that we all have to deal with. Very much appreciate the council and the public's willingness to pay more on their water and sewer bill to fund these items. I know no utility increase is a good utility increase. However, it was necessary, and I think everybody on my board and this council and in the public pretty much overwhelmingly accepted that. That being said, in comparison, currently, if you live inside the city limits and you're not an exorbitant user of water, your water utility, wastewater utility, and trash service, all on the same bill, is probably still less than $100. And as compared to any other single utility that you may have, that's probably a pretty good value. So hopefully we can keep it that way for a while. But again, the rate plan that was in place funds all the projects that are going on and the ones that are coming up, and hopefully we won't have to come back at any time in my tenure here to ask for another increase. But unless something that's totally unexpected happens, that shouldn't be the case. So I guess that's good news. And again, we appreciate the support of everybody here and in the community. So I think that's all I've got. Other than, as always, the board welcomes the opportunity to meet with you folks on any items at any time. If y'all feel the need to meet, they'd be glad to do so. And as I've said, we want to thank you folks and the residents of city and I guess River Valley as a whole for supporting us and letting us do the job we do. Any questions? Or have I lulled you to sleep?
I'd like to ask one thing, but last year we come up and we had the best water in the states.
Right.
Where are we standing now?
Well, we're going to say we came in second this year. Well, I assume they like to spread it around. They don't want to give everybody the same opportunity. But we finished in the top three. I don't know which of the three we finished in, but we didn't make it to the national competition this year. We lost at the regional level or the local level. I think Star City or Junction City or some city that you wouldn't think would have the best tasting drinking water in Arkansas. I think they were the ones that got it this year. So I'm just gonna say it's a political thing. They like to spread it around, because it's obvious we're the best still. You know, we're the best last year. We haven't changed anything, so we're still the best. So.
We know our water's good.
Yeah.
It is, and I get a lot of compliments about that. If you go very many places and you come back to Russellville, it's good drinking water.
Good, thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
Thank you, Mr. Mallett. I'll add one more thing on my report that Mr. Mallett touched on their bonds. Council, earlier this year, you took action to approve some revenue bonds for the ConAgra expansion. This afternoon, for whatever reason, it took a long time to get all of that stuff done. This afternoon, Ms. Taylor and I were visited by the attorney from Friday, Eldridge and Clark that handles all that and signed off on all of that. But it made me remember recently at the Alliance annual banquet, the plant manager at ConAgra got up and gave a little update on that. I guess the important two parts is there are already $9 million into construction, and basically that's just kind of a kicking off point. But the important part, I guess, to me was that when they asked for those bonds, they had said that they thought they would create 25 or 30 jobs. At this point, they're around 100, and they're expecting to hire 77 more. So they've way outstripped the number of jobs that they had anticipated creating. And so I guess just a thank you to the council for supporting that. Your support for ConAgra has paid us back many times over.
They have.
So thank you to them. That'll bring us down to committee reports. Finance Chair Harris, do you have any work for us today?
I'm going to go really fast, and we're going to consolidate the items that are the same. So
Okay.
if you guys can follow me. The first, okay, we met on 12/12. And presenting to the council tonight, we have appropriations, and they're items 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay.
We have had much discussion on these, but I present those, Mayor, in the form of a motion.
Okay, so council, the chair's motion is items 1 through 7, appropriations altogether. Is there any questions on that? In that case, all in favor of approving items 1 through 7, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Chair, that motion is approved.
Item number 8 is the consideration of a resolution relating to the acceptance of a bid for the South Vancouver drainage improvements, and that should be in your packet, I believe, and I present that in the form of a motion.
Okay, council, you heard the chair's motion on item 8. Is there any discussion or questions?
Well, I have one,
Okay,
because I'm thinking I saw an amount for $61,000 or something, so will we need an appropriation for the money?
Jerry says no.
No?
Oh, it's already in his budget. Yeah, it's already, it's that
Okay.
Drainage amount that we had talked about the other day.
Okay.
Yeah. We did have one speaker signed up to speak. Mr. Hutchins, are you wanting to speak on that item or on the old business? Okay. It's, step to the, yes, to the podium or to that microphone there. Mr. Hutchins dropped off the packet that all of you should have a copy of. Supporting information is how it's titled.
Yes.
Mr. Hutchinson, before you get started, Mr. Smith, would you give us the Reader's Digest version of our rules of procedure? Because sometimes we get a little bit off of that. I want to be sure that everybody's aware before we get started.
That each speaker has 5 minutes to make their input.
Okay?
That's why I gave you the long list.
You get 5 minutes. State your name for the record, please.
Phil Hutchison.
Okay?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I am Phil Hutchison, a registered professional engineer in the state of Arkansas. My number is 1579. I've worked for the Highway Department at 2 residence offices. I've worked at the leading power plant design firm of Sargent Lundy in Chicago as a structural engineer at 4 nuclear sites. I've worked for the Tennessee Valley Authority and a federal agency created to demonstrate the proper way to construct and operate all electric generating facilities. A nuclear power plant has at least 200 operators and an engineering division with 5 disciplines. I created a deterministic model of the operation of the Browns Ferry nuclear plant and was the only person to see that there was a lack of safety in depth. My drawing attention to that problem resulted in the addition of an auxiliary fuel pool cooling safety system to provide redundant capacity to allow outage work to proceed at a higher level of safety. My work on the outage risk assessment group made a physical structural change to the plant while the actions of the 3 Mile Island incident did not result in the addition of a safety system. I coordinated the planning and scheduling the outage, resulted in a world record shortest refueling outage of a boiling water reactor in 19 days and 10 hours. I worked for the Environmental Protection Agency, reviewing all water quality models produced in Arkansas, Louisiana, New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Texas. I pray the council will place the South Vancouver Stormwater Improvement Project 17002 on hold until the size of the pipes can be changed in the contract to carry out the proper flow and extend the scope to remediate more of the substandard stormwater system. On October 3rd, 2017, I personally gathered information during the rain about the amount of water in the stormwater piping at the cross drain at 1006 South Tulsa. The water was 4 inches from the top of a 24-inch pipe, which is 89% full. Mr. Gerald Hook of Whippoorwill Lane maintains a rain gauge, which is 2 doors down from my house, and said that the rain was 0.65 inches of rain. It is intuitively obvious to the casual observer that the installed 24-inch cross drain is drastically undersized for the required design flow for the Russellville City Ordinance of 1675 of 3.06 inches has to be carried by cross drain. This number is provided by the Corps of Engineers in the 205 project documents. It is undersized by 470%. Twin 36-inch pipes will be needed at 1006 South Tulsa instead of a 24-inch pipe. Additional water will be added after that cross drain by the houses on Whippoorwill Lane, by houses on Whippoorwill Lane and the land south of Whippoorwill. Quoting from the Corps of Engineers 205 project, the land cover shapefile was edited to coincide with the City of Russellville's city zoning map and assuming fully developed conditions, meaning that the standard practice is to assume that the same rate of comes from the developed area is the same as what's coming from the zoning. That would make the 36-inch pipe at South Vancouver undersized by 270%. Twin 42-inch pipes are needed at that location. I'm using an evidence-based, demonstratable, empirical model rather than the theoretical model. My model is calibrated using the measured data from a specific rainfall event. The City Ordinance 1675 is assuming there has been no construction, and a theoretical model is used to guess what would happen. Stephen C. Chopra, who is a recognized authority on modeling and the author of Service Water Quality Modeling, has stated, the simplest model that provides the information that is needed to make a decision is the best model. In his book, section 1.2 states, we can therefore define a mathematical model as an idealized formulation that represents the response of a physical system to the external stimuli. The pipe at 2006 Tulsa is a physical system of 54 lots, and the rainfall is the external stimuli. The area of the pipe filled with water is a function of the rainfall in the watershed. The model can be scaled for the number of lots upstream of a pipe. Mr. Jones told A.J. Walsh and me that the preferred solution for the reach between South Tulsa and South Vancouver was piping. I was quite surprised to find in that drawings that there was a concrete inlet structure 18.5 feet long to be placed in that ditch. The drawings would cement the size of the pipe in that drain right now and block the ditch from transitioning to a pipe at the drop inlet in the future. I pray that one of my options previously submitted to Mr. Jones be selected to modify the contract to handle the 3.06 inches of rain. I'll be happy to discuss that with anybody at any time. Before
Mr.
me
Hutchins,
are
that's-
five steps.
You're at your 5 minute.
I love it. Thank you. I thought I would get there.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, council. Any thoughts? Mr. Jones is on vacation today for the holiday, tying it in with the holidays. I did speak with him this afternoon. He stands by his calculations, just for your information. You've heard the chair's motion. There's no more discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
I believe that was one no.
I said no.
Mr. Westcott. Chair, that item is approved.
That's all I have for tonight, and now, for the 12th of the
Okay.
month. Tonight, we met again, Mayor. Again, I'm going to, for the speed of things tonight, I'm going to put the items together. The first items number 1 and 2, 3 and 4, and 5 and 6, 7, and 8. There is no 9. 9 is a duplicate of 8. 10, 11, and 12. And these are pretty much year-end housekeeping type things, transfers, et cetera. And I present those in the form of a motion.
Council, you heard the chair's motion for items 1 through 12, excluding 9, which is a duplication. Any questions or comments? In that case, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Chair, items 1 through 12 are approved.
Thank you, Mayor. Number 13 is the consideration of the Alliance monthly payment for the $7,345. I present that in the form of a motion.
Council, you heard the chair's motion. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item 13 is approved.
Number 14 are the 2018 budgets. I present all of those in the form of a motion.
Council, you heard the chair's motion. Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item 14 is approved.
Number 15 is the consideration to charge, to change the charge for the swim team meets from $100 down to $60. We've had discussion on that tonight, but I present that in the form of a motion.
Okay, council, you heard the chair's motion. Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item 15 is approved.
Number 10 and number 16 and 17 they're tabled.
Okay.
Nothing new. Number 18 is before you. I think you'll find, I present that in the form of a motion.
Council, you heard the chair's motion on item
18.
18. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye.
No.
It's an ordinance?
It's
It
an
is
ordinance,
ordinance. I'm sorry. In that case,
Motion to suspend the rules read one time by title only with a short explanation.
all right. Well, let's see. We'll let you have the last one. We'll give this one to Mr. Westcott. We're going to suspend discussion or the reading.
Correct. Read
requirement.
one time, title only.
One
short
time by
explanation.
title only. Okay. So we're voting on the motion to suspend. All in favor, we'll have to call the roll.
Wow.
Wasn't me this time. I did that about 5 years ago, and I'm still
I did
here.
it.
Okay.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Well,
Right,
Yeah.
Start off with the one that made the motion and one that seconded.
let's see, was Mr. Westcott on the motion and Mr. Wiley seconded?
Yeah.
Okay, so start with Mr. Westcott.
Okay. Mr. Westcott?
Yes.
Mr. Wiley?
Yes.
Ms. Caruth?
Yes.
Mayor Horton?
No,
Yes.
just,
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Harris?
yes.
Mr. George?
Yes.
Mr. Sims?
Yes.
Mr. Tripp?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Smith?
An ordinance amending the penalty section, ordinance number 1811, the current business permit ordinance for the city of Russellville, Arkansas, and for other purposes. This ordinance, if passed, would amend ordinance number 1811, section 17, which is the penalty section for that ordinance number 1811, which would bring the fines up to the current state law cap, which was changed earlier this year in the legislative session.
Motion to adopt with the emergency clause.
We have to do them separately?
Can we do them
combine
separate?
You need to do them
Need to pass it
separate.
first. Motion to adopt.
Okay, so we got a motion to adopt.
Second.
Mr. Westcott, second, Mr. Wiley.
And this is what agenda item?
18.
18.
Fine, it's 18.
Mr. Westcott?
Yes.
Mr. Wiley?
Yes.
Ms. Caruth?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. George?
Yes.
Mr. Sims?
Yes.
Mr. Tripp?
Yes.
All right, that item is approved. Now,
Motion for the emergency clause.
okay, we got a motion on the emergency clause.
Yes, second.
And a second motion from Mr. Westcott, second from Mr. Wiley.
Mr. Westcott?
Yes.
Mr. Wiley?
Yes.
Ms. Caruth?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. George?
Yes.
Mr. Sims?
Yes.
Mr. Tripp?
Yes.
Okay, Chair, item 18 is approved and the emergency clause is adopted.
And Mayor, that's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. Personnel Committee, Chairman Sims.
Yes, the Personnel Committee did not meet this month because we had some tabled items that were not brought back to the council or not brought back to the committee. However, this evening we have a couple items that were tabled from last month's meeting, and I just asked the council if there's any action that they require on these at this time.
I don't think there's any action taken on, I don't believe we
Should
agreed
we
on
refer
anything.
these back to
When
the
we went
committee to
into
get them off of
executive
this?
You can, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, would you,
I think it should go back to the committee.
okay, so
I do.
let's let Ms. Caruth make a motion then
I will
to
make that motion.
refer items, personnel 1 and 2 back to the Personnel Committee, and that'll clean it off of here until you're ready to do something.
Yes, sir.
Okay? There's a motion to
I'll
refer back to
second.
personnel. Second, Mr. George.
Mr. George, he's
All
here
in
tonight.
favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That brings us to old business 1.
Mr. Mayor, one point of order. Did I go to sleep or did we approve the minutes from last month?
We did.
We did. Okay, good job. Thank you. Ms. Brooks?
Enjoy your nap. All right, old business 1. As we stated earlier, Mr., what's his name? Jones is on vacation. He left you an update of his projects. We'll revisit that in January if that's okay.
Mayor, if it's okay, I'd like to make a motion to table this in light of Mr. Jones being
Okay.
out of town, not to discount any resident here
Good.
about this ongoing issue, but,
Okay.
and again, we will be reviewing the updated 5-year master plan to vote on that, take action on that
Yeah.
in January, and that will allow Mr. Jones to be here and further discuss some
Okay,
of
and
this.
some of these items I think are on that, so, good.
I'll second that.
We'll go motion and a second to table till next month. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, old business 1 is tabled. And old business 2 is an ordinance.
Motion to suspend the rules, read by title, the first of 3 readings, read by title only with a short explanation.
Second.
Okay, so you want to read it one time tonight and then come back next month?
Correct.
Okay. Second. We got a motion, well, I think we've already got a second from Mr. Westcott to read by title only for the first reading only, and a second by Mr. Tripp. All right, call the roll on the motion to suspend. We're gonna have to make you some more copies, aren't
Yeah.
Okay, motion by Mr. Westcott. And Mr. Tripp seconded. Okay, Mr. Westcott?
Yes?
Mr. Tripp?
Yes.
Mr. Sims?
Yes.
Mr. George?
Yes.
Ms. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Caruth?
Yes.
Mr. Wiley?
Yes.
you? All right, Mr. Smith?
Looking for that one. I don't know if it's in here.
Is OB two. Old business two.
Give me a second, I can find it. I got it. Yeah, I found it last month. An ordinance amending the zoning code for the city of Russell, Arkansas, ordinance number 1966, and for other purposes. This ordinance, if passed, would rezone the ordinance code, ordinance number 1966, in regards to creating an El Paso University zoning. And with this ordinance is the attachment that would show what the El Paso University regulating plan is, as well as the code created under Article 2, Section 18, subsection 1, which talks about the El Paso University District. That is a new addition to the zoning code.
That's pretty much it for the first reading, isn't it? All right, we'll have a second reading in January, I assume. Any other action on that? Mr. Westcott, you're the liaison,
No, sir.
and you were there this week at the town hall meeting?
Correct, and we had a meeting there Monday night, very well attended. I'd like to give the residents a chance to hear more about this and become more involved if they have any questions before it's decided in full.
Okay. Very good, thank you. That brings us to new business 1.
Motion to suspend the rules and read for the first of 3 readings by title only with a short explanation.
All right, we got a motion to suspend the rules for the first reading only. Short explanation, reading by title only and short explanation. Mr. Westcott?
Second.
That was who?
Second.
Second was Mr. Tripp. Okay, so we're voting on the motion to suspend. It's for the first reading only.
And that is item, what is that exactly? Make sure I'm on the right page here. Is that the
That's
one
just
about
a
College Hill Edition?
Yeah, you're on the right one.
You'll have to do a public hearing for this.
Can you do it?
We need to do it before any passage of the ordinance.
Planning board heard this yet?
Still got 2
Yes.
more readings, but we could go.
Why don't we just, we'll read it
You
first?
can do it right after. Now, the
They approved it,
petitioner
didn't
said they wanted it, or they
Didn't the
needed
planning
to
board
pass
approve that?
tonight.
Yes.
So,
That's
They
not the
did,
one Garza was.
but this has
oh, wait,
a
no.
lot to do with the previous one that we just did.
Oh, okay.
Okay, no, this is a different one. This is,
Yeah, this is a different.
okay,
Okay,
that's the late agenda one.
All right, so we're voting on the motion to suspend for the first reading only. We'll call the roll.
Mr. Westcott?
Yes.
Mr. Tripp?
Yes.
Mr. Sims?
Yes.
Mr. George?
Yes.
Ms. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yeah.
Mr. Wiley?
Yes.
Ms. Caruth?
Yes.
All right, so the motion to suspend is approved. Mr. Smith.
An ordinance vacating and abandoning a part of the north 5 feet of the 15-foot wide alley that runs south of Lot 10 and 11, Block 7, College Hill addition to the city of Russellville, Polk County, Arkansas. And for the purposes, this ordinance, if passed, would vacate the aforementioned footage in the south of Lot 10 and 11, Block 7, College Hill addition, the city of Russellville.
All right, there's the first reading. That'll bring us to new business 2.
We got to have a public hearing.
Yeah, we need to set a public hearing on item 1.
Are you there?
Set it
It was
our
set.
January date.
It was set for tonight.
Set for tonight.
Well, that's what the ordinance, and we set it for last month.
So we need to declare the public hearing.
Can you do that?
Because you passed a resolution last month for this
Okay,
month.
all right. So we need to do the public hearing on that. We'll declare the public hearing open. Mr. Vance, is that the one you wanted to speak on? If you would step to either one of the microphones and state your name for the record.
David Vance, and I came last month and now again this month. And I'm also here to represent Robert Lynn Roberts too, who owns the property on the other side of the alley. And all of his parking spots back out into the alley. And even taking just 5 feet off could affect whether some vehicle could get out or get turned around very easy. And my original proposal, they were going to close the whole alley, and I had talked to Mr. Smith about closing just the north 2.5 feet, because that was the only, there's an encroachment of the front corner of that old Roy Ham grocery building that's sort of at an angle in there, and the front corner encroaches into the alley 2.5 feet. The back part of the building, there's no encroachment. Somebody told me before the meeting started tonight that 5 feet's not going to make that much difference, but it could if somebody has a big pickup truck or something, you know, and they're trying to. And the next owner could very easily be Arkansas Tech. They already own the property on the other side, and they'll put up one of these nice iron fences, you know, along there on their new property line, 5 feet in, and somebody's going to be maybe backing into the fence or something because they don't have enough room to turn around. I'd like to see it go back to the 2.5 feet that we originally discussed, because that's all the encroachment I think there is in that corner. It's 2.5 feet. Of course, Robert Lynn doesn't want any of it closed, but I've talked him into accepting the 2.5 feet.
Okay.
And he's ill and not able to come to meetings like this anymore. That's the reason he had to retire. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vance. This is a public hearing. Does anybody else wish to speak? Okay. Yeah.
My name is Mary Golden, and I work for Moore & Company Realtors. I have my clients here who are proposing to buy the property next door to Mr. Roberts. The reason that we're asking for the 3-foot encroachment to be removed and to take over that part of the alleyway is because we cannot get a loan approved with that encroachment on that title work. So what's going to happen is you're going to lose a new business owner in that building. Mr. Jones has brought the petition. He's not able to be here tonight, and he's the seller, so I am here to represent my client as the new business owner. This business will not be operating at the same time that Mr. Roberts is operating. They may be open, but most of their business is going to be in the evening, and he's usually open, you know, till 5 o'clock. So I don't feel that that's really, I mean, it is public property, as you all know. So we're only asking for just enough to be able to get that encroachment off that title work. So 5 foot, I mean, even if we close the whole alley, there's half of it would be his and half of it would be theirs. So I'm here to make sure that we can try to work through this.
Okay. Anybody else wish to speak? Okay, we'll declare the public hearing closed. That is reading 1. We'll bring back for reading 2 in January.
I spoke to everyone at the planning commission meeting. I've spoke with people all week. We were under the impression that we were going to be able to do an emergency clause, put that in effect. Mr. Smith, I spoke to Mrs. Palladino, who's in your office, and I was assured that we were going to be set to do the emergency clause so that we would be finished tonight to be able to sign off on this if we could get it approved.
If
The reason
passed.
being is because we're trying to close this property before the end of the year.
And that would be the case if it were passed, but the council, an ordinance is typically 3 readings over 3 separate meetings. And on certain items, the council decides to waive that and do it all in one, but the motion was for the first reading only. Council, unless you feel any different.
We're talking about 2 feet, right?
5 foot.
We're gonna, well, but it was 3.
Was 2.5.
And they want 5. So
Yeah.
we're really just talking about 2.5 feet.
Yeah.
And, I mean, if it was up to me and it was my livelihood and my business,
I'd pass it.
yeah.
Sure.
So I make a motion to run back what we started. Yeah.
Let me,
Approved.
let me talk a little procedure here.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Can we make a motion now to have the second and first reading?
You can just suspend the rule now.
Read all 3 readings.
We had a public
Alright,
hearing,
so-
we suspend the rules.
You can
You
read
wanna
all 3 readings one night.
You go ahead, I think it's pretty.
All right, so the motion that we voted on was for the first reading only. If somebody wants to, you can make a motion now for the second and third readings.
I would like to make a motion for the second and third reading.
All
I'll
right,
second
You
that.
want to suspend the rules,
Suspend the rules.
title only for the second and third readings.
Yes.
And Mr. Wiley,
I'll second
you're
it.
good with seconding that. All right, so for everybody's clarification, we're voting now on suspending the rules on the second and third readings of that same item. Okay? And the motion was Mr. George, and the second was Mr. Wiley. So we'll need to call the roll on that.
Mr. George?
Yes.
Mr. Wiley?
Yes.
Ms. Caruth? No. Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Sims?
No.
Mr. Tripp?
No.
Mr. Westcott?
No.
4-4.
Your vote doesn't even matter. Takes 6. Just 2/3.
It takes 6 votes to suspend those rules, so the motion fails. So we'll bring it back for second and third readings in January, is the best we can do. So now that brings us to new business 2. All right, new business 2. This is a resolution to set a public hearing for January 18th on vacating a right-of-way.
Motion.
We have a motion, Mr. Wiley. Did we hear a second?
Mr. Brown?
Brown.
Mr. Brown. This is resolution. Is there any discussion? All in favor of setting the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so we'll have a public hearing at next month's meeting.
Okay, Mayor, we got a late item agenda.
Yes, sir. We have a couple of items that we're asked to consider for a late item. Mr. Wiley, are you?
The first one is, Mr. Garza wants a public hearing set,
Yep.
and I make a motion, we set a public hearing for the first one.
Let's say, proceed with, first we have to add it? All right, so you're making a motion to,
Add,
Second.
all right, so got a motion and a second to add a late agenda item or two late agenda items? Two late agenda items. All in favor of adding, well, we got to call the roll on that, to suspend.
that one for the,
We'll have to call the roll on the motion to suspend.
Oh, but
one
he needs to add it first.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, Mr.
yeah,
Wiley
not to
made the
suspend, but to add the late agenda items.
motion to add, just, that's the first motion.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was Mr. Wiley, and second was Mr. Westcott.
And to suspend the late agenda. Mr. Wiley?
yes,
Mr. Westcott?
Yes.
Mr. Tripp?
Yes.
Mr. Sims?
Yes.
Mr. George?
Yes.
Ms. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Caruth? Yes.
All right, so the motion to add is confirmed.
now I make a motion, we, set a date, hearing date for the first one for the property on Parkway.
All right.
Mr. Garza, you got anything to say about this one?
Well, hold on, we got a second for Mr. Westcott. Now discussion. Or is this ordinance?
This is an ordinance, so you got to suspend the rules, or, if so, for how many readings?
All right, this is an ordinance, Mr. Wiley.
Oh, suspend the rule, read by title only with short explanation.
How many times? For passage tonight?
Yeah, just for the public hearing.
Let's,
Oh,
I'll tell you what, Mr. Garza, come up and talk to us a minute.
This is just for the public hearing.
Yeah.
This is not for passage.
No. Because of the Christmas holiday, this month was atypical in that the Planning Commission met before the City Council, which is not the normal case. And the Planning Commission did unanimously approve or recommend approval to the City Council rezoning request from the Domus Development Corporation out of Dallas, Texas on the property on West Parkway. The next step then would have been to come to the City Council at the next meeting to set the public hearing date for the second month to have the public hearing. In this case, since the Planning Commission met before the City Council, we're asking that you go ahead and set that date for next month.
Set it for next month.
Next month,
For
yes.
next-
So there'll be no discussion, it's just setting the public hearing date for next month.
At the council meeting.
Correct.
Okay. That's my motion.
Okay, and that's my second.
Okay. All right, so we're just setting the public hearing. We got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we'll set a public hearing for the January meeting.
What's that next one now?
And the next one is an ordinance for approval of the final plat of the Center Phase 3 subdivision.
Motion.
Motioning for one reading or three readings?
One reading. One reading
Just
only.
your typical suspend the rules
Yes.
with title only for one reading.
Yes.
What was the ordinance for?
It's, final plat of the Center Phase 3. No second?
Second.
All right, we got a second for Mr. Brown, motion for Mr. Wiley, and a second for Mr. Brown to suspend the rules for the first reading only. Read by title only.
So is this the first of three?
First of three.
Let me bring
Three
it back.
separate.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right,
So it's going to be done over 3 months,
yeah.
Yes.
not all tonight.
No, just one reading.
One reading tonight.
First reading tonight.
So we're going to have more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Can we amend that motion to have discussion after or in with it, just to make a point on, to clarify something on this?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so-
Second amendment. I'd like to amend that for some discussion first, if that's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
I'll second that. His amendment.
Okay, so the
I just want to be sure to have
But
discussion.
after we get a first and second, we can discuss it then.
Not on the suspension rule.
Huh?
Yeah,
Not on the
typically don't have
suspension
a
rule.
suspension rule till
Oh,
the
okay,
third reading.
all right.
But if you want to make that part of your
Yeah, I'll
motion,
make that part of my motion
can we do that?
for discussion after it's passed.
Can't discuss on a motion to
Make-
suspend.
Amend it to make a motion to discuss before
Yeah.
suspending the rules.
Yeah.
He needs
All
to
right.
withdraw his motion. then.
Why don't we do this?
I
Why don't you
withdraw
just
my motion.
Withdraw his motion.
I'd like to make a motion for discussion.
Complicated.
All right, Mr. Tripp is making a motion for discussion. Second. Second, Mr. Westcott. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No. What he did, what's the, okay, no, go ahead.
All right.
No.
Mayor, I'm not sure if this is most up-to-date information or not, but it's been brought to my attention that maybe the Russell School District has a concern over the adoption of the final plat of how it was originally platted. And there's discussion of having a drainage easement added to the plat.
Okay.
And until that drainage easement is added to this plat, I would like to hold off on it.
Is that something that could be done between the first and third readings?
Well, you have to start over in essence. But they had a drainage, I believe there was a drainage concern as I called you when I received the call and we went out there. And it's my understanding that they had talked again and there's a resolution for it. They just want to make sure the resolution gets added to the plat. Because if it's not added to the plat, there's no enforcement after the fact.
Question. Were they represented at the public hearing?
Sir?
Were they represented at the planning commission on this issue?
This was years back.
Mr. Westcott, do you remember any discussion on that at planning Monday? No, sir. I don't remember hearing any discussion on it at all.
I guess my question is, how did this all come up? We get this far in the process and now we're just now hearing about this request.
Mayor, how long ago did I call you after getting the phone call? 6 weeks, 8 weeks ago?
Probably.
I received a phone call 6 or 8 weeks ago. I called the mayor. We met out there. And then I believe Mr. Jones has met out there with them since then.
Okay, so who's it going to take to answer whether or not it's been done to their satisfaction?
I was just,
Is
it
this
was
one
asked to
yours?
me.
We'll get with Mr. Jones next month. I
Just
mean,
be,
if we were just gonna do one reading tonight, we can clean it all up in January and let the council decide how to.
That works.
there's a utility easement shown, but there's not a drainage easement shown.
Okay.
And I think that's their concern.
Mayor, am I incorrect in saying that there's a holding pond out there to far end of that on the west side? They built that about 2 or 3 years ago.
On the west side, I think so. I think there's some kind of.
They built a pond down there to help hold that water.
But this one, they didn't actually ask for us to take it up tonight. We just put it on because we were doing the other one, so.
Okay.
It's fine with me if we wanna wait.
All right.
Well, how about a motion to table this until next month? Because if we do the first of 3 readings and change it, we'll have to start over anyway.
Second.
All right, motion and a second to table. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I believe that cleans us up for tonight, other than to wish all of Russellville and the River Valley a Merry Christmas. Hope all of y'all are safe and happy and well-fed when we see you again.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion
Merry
to adjourn.
Christmas to everybody.
All right, we're adjourned. Yeah, it's all part of the game.
I just sent you the